cat solved a perfect cold case. An abandoned Dodge Shadow sits idling on a quiet rural dirt road. The car was running. Its front seat is completely drenched in fresh human blood. 32-year-old Shirley Duguay is nowhere to be found. 3 tense days pass without a single solid lead turning up. Search teams kept working. Then military searchers spot a buried trash bag under forest leaves. Inside sits a heavy wooden club next to a blood-soaked leather jacket. The evidence was critical. Detectives knew the jacket belonged to the killer, but the murderer left 0 fingerprints or human skin cells behind. The scene was scrubbed clean. All they found were 27 tiny white hairs stuck inside the lining. Back in 1994, courts had never used animal DNA before. Scientists were forced to attempt an untested world first. Without a single White House cat, a murderer was walking free. The disappearance and the tense search on PEI. On October 3, 1994, Shirley Duguay vanished without a trace. She was 32 years old. She was a mother of 5 young children on Prince Edward Island. Panic set in when she failed to pick up her kids. Later that night, police spotted her empty car along Highway 169. The license plates were gone. They had been ripped completely off the bumper. Massive blood spatter covered the steering wheel and front windshield. News of the violent scene sent shockwaves through the quiet island towns. Officers treated the scene a homicide. Patrol units scoured back roads for miles around Tyne Valley. Shirley's body was nowhere to be found. Search teams expanded their grid into the dense surrounding forests. Local volunteers worked alongside officers in damp, freezing rain. The search was grueling. 3 long days passed. The community feared the killer was still lurking nearby. Investigators began questioning everyone in Shirley's inner circle. Focus quickly shifted to her estranged partner, Douglas Beamish. Beamish had a documented history of severe domestic abuse. He was also on criminal parole at that exact time. Detectives brought him in for interrogation right away. The evidence bag and the suspect. Beamish remained stone cold during police questioning. He denied everything. He claimed he was nowhere near Tyne Valley that night. Meanwhile, searchers 6 miles away made a critical discovery. An officer noticed an unusual mound of leaves near a dirt track. Underneath sat a heavy black trash bag buried in the mud. Officers carefully cut open the thick plastic wrap. The contents were horrifying. Inside lay a blood-stained wooden club and size 9 sneakers. Beside them was a dark leather jacket drenched in Shirley's blood. Blood patterns proved the killer wore that coat during the attack. Friends told police Beamish owned a similar coat. Nobody was completely sure. They couldn't verify ownership with absolute certainty. Forensic techs swept the collar and cuffs for sweat marks. They hoped to harvest human skin cells for DNA typing. The lab returned devastating news. 0 human DNA came back from the jacket. The investigation hit a brick wall. Inspector Roger Savoy ordered a full teardown of the garment. Techs turned the jacket inside out under bright laboratory lights. Hidden deep inside the inner fabric lining were 27 white hairs. They were tiny strands that looked like human fibers. Microscopic analysis proved they were actually white cat fur. Inspector Savoy remembered seeing a white cat at Beamish's home. The suspect lived with his parents. The family pet was named Snowball. Microscopic hair analysis can identify an animal species. It lacks genetic detail. Standard hair analysis cannot link fur to one specific pet. The science was limited. To prove ownership, detectives needed genetic DNA mapping. Inspector Savoy began cold calling crime labs across North America. Forensic labs repeatedly turned him down. Nobody had the technology. No crime lab on Earth had ever processed feline DNA. The process did not exist. Savoy refused to give up the search. He needed an expert. He eventually reached Dr. Stephen O'Brien in Maryland. O'Brien was chief of genomic diversity at the National Cancer Institute. His team studied cat genetics to research human viral diseases. They focused on viruses. He handed the case to geneticist Dr. Marilyn Minotti Raymond. The scientists agreed to attempt the impossible. Police secured a warrant to draw blood from Snowball. The sample was critical. They shipped the blood and hair roots under strict custody. Dr. Minotti Raymond isolated DNA from a tiny hair root. She used PCR machines to make millions of genetic copies. PCR works like magic. It acts like a high-tech molecular photocopier. She targeted specific regions, called short tandem repeats. Her lab had recently mapped 10 specific feline markers. The team was hopeful. The lab ran the comparison tests late into the night. The hair root matched Snowball's blood across all 10 markers. It was a flawless match. Defense attorney John McDougall prepared a fierce counterattack. He challenged the findings immediately. McDougall argued that Prince Edward Island was geographically isolated. Island cats had been inbreeding in closed populations for centuries. Local pets shared traits. He claimed dozens of local cats likely shared Snowball's profile. If true, the match was completely useless in court. The evidence would collapse. The defense declared the evidence was totally meaningless. The prosecution knew they needed statistical proof. They needed real numbers. RCMP officers were handed a very unusual assignment. They drove across the province collecting blood from random cats. They visited local farms. They sampled 20 farm cats to measure true genetic variation. They also tested 12 cats from a closed breeding colony. The lab went back to work. Dr. Menotti Raymond ran the new samples through the system. The results completely shattered the defense's theory. The defense was wrong. Island cats possessed massive genetic diversity. Not a single farm cat matched Snowball's profile. Geneticists calculated the final mathematical odds for court. The numbers were staggering. The chances of another match were 1 in 45 million. The island had fewer than 135,000 residents. The math was practically definitive. 7 months after she vanished, the case took a tragic turn. The wait was finally over. On May 6, 1995, a passerby spotted human remains. Shirley Duguay's body was found in a shallow grave. Her hands were tied tightly behind her back. The scene was devastating. An autopsy confirmed she died from severe blunt force trauma. Her skull fractures matched the wooden club in the bag. The evidence was overwhelming. Investigators now had the body, weapon, and genetic link. Douglas Beamish was formally charged with first-degree murder. The trial was set. In July 1996, the historic trial opened in Charlottetown. Defense lawyers fought viciously to exclude the feline DNA. They attacked the lab. They argued the cancer lab was not an accredited facility. They claimed the STR testing method was novel and unproven. Dr. Menotti Raymond took the witness stand to defend her work. She explained how population statistics proved Snowball was the source. Her testimony was brilliant. The presiding judge overruled every single defense objection. He made legal history. He ruled the underlying STR science was reliable. For the first time, animal DNA entered a murder trial. Every cold case holds a secret hidden in plain sight. Microscopic evidence often speaks louder than any witness. If you love deep dives into real forensic science, subscribe to The Forensic Twist. Turning on notifications ensures you never miss a groundbreaking story. The jury left the courtroom to begin deliberations. Tensions ran very high. They weighed the overwhelming statistical math against Beamish's denials. The facts were clear. On July 19, 1996, the jury returned a unanimous verdict. Douglas Beamish was found guilty of second-degree murder. Justice was finally served. The judge sentenced him to life in prison. Beamish appealed the conviction multiple times over the years. Every attempt failed completely. Higher appellate courts rejected every single appeal. His parole requests were repeatedly denied. Beamish served nearly 3 decades behind bars before conditional release. He lost his freedom. Meanwhile, Snowball lived out his life at home peacefully. He was completely oblivious to his historic role. An innocent house cat had provided the key physical link. The case changed everything. The Duguay trial revolutionized forensic science across the globe. Today, police databases routinely track pet fur, pollen, and microbes. Science keeps evolving rapidly. Non-human DNA is now standard evidence in major crimes. Beamish took extreme care to clean human DNA from the scene. He never imagined his family cat would seal his fate.